Good day and welcome to yet another BNV Sports edition here. Joining me, I'm your host, Earl Baston, and joining me today is the Bermuda national team captain, Dante Leverock. First of all, thank you very much for joining me, Dante. 2020 has been one of those things you want to try to erase off the calendar. You had just gotten back into full swing of things at your last club, and COVID took over. How have you been dealing with these pressures?
I mean, like you said, it's become the norm for everyone. Dealing with COVID, people losing jobs, people being sick. So I mean, for me, I just take it in stride. I mean, for me, I'm a footballer, so I live a life of a luxury per se. You have people that are actually struggling and going through real life things. So not being able to play football is it's disappointing for myself, but in the wider scale of things, it's not very important.
Yeah. Let's go back to when you started. I remember you doing one-on-one sessions with David Bascom. You started out as a striker,
Yeah.
much like some of your heroes at the time were forward players.
hmm
When and who converted you to a defender?
Yeah, like you said, I worked a lot with David Bascom. He's been a big influence in my career. He helped me get my first club and going through his B Pro camps I went every year. So I want to say credit to him. I appreciate him. He's like a mentor to me. But um, it was when I was in school in England, and well, first of all, my uncle, when I was at Dennytown, said I should be a center back. I actually played a year, like on the 17s, I think, as center back. And you want to be a striker. I was like, no, I'm not a center back. I score goals. But when I went to England, I obviously at a higher level. I was playing at Leatherhead FC, a non-league club in London. And I was talking to the coach there, and he said, "Look, just try it. Like I think you have a future there." And ever since, I was about 2021. So ever since, I've managed to make a career out of it. So I'm grateful, for making that switch.
You spend time in England and then you end up in the US. What's the difference of the styles of play? Although football is football, but there is some difference, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a difference. I think in England, it's more, especially in non-league, it's more rough and tumble, but it's more tactically aware. The little small things matter. And in US, it's definitely improving. However, you're more of a athlete. You have to be physically strong, fast. They have a lot of good, athletes out there. But the game, like you said, football is all over the world. It has different styles, but now with that you know that range is decreasing, where it's becoming more similar, especially in the U.S. No.
Mm. The fact that you were at Harrisburg City Islanders a year after or a few years after being playing against them when you was a member of the Bermuda Hawks. Um, how much had that team developed from the time you saw them during your time at the Hawks to when you actually suited up for
Yeah, I think it was a massive change. When I was there, it was such a professional club, but it was also family orientated, which I loved. I just made long, life lasting friends there. Still speak to them to this day. Um, but that was one my first love. That club, I always loved that club. Unfortunately, now they don't exist. It was changed to Penn FC, but now that also with the new USL rules, having to have stadiums and things like that, they don't exist now. But if they were ever to come back in my lifetime, I'll 100% try to go back.
you look at you at this international time. You're representing Bermuda. Um, your first couple of games as a Bermuda national player, you were just very vocal in that. When were you surprised when you were asked to take over the leadership?
Um, I wouldn't say surprised because it's something that I always wanted and I was always striving for. I mean, I remember watching, John Barry Newsom, Connor Smith, and these guys, wearing that armband. And from a young age, I feel like that's the biggest privilege you can have. So I was always striving for that. Um, obviously, my good friend Reggie was the captain at the time, and he was doing a good job at it. So I would just bide in my time, not looking for it, but if I was ever called upon, which I was, I would take it with open arms. And again, it's a privilege to wear your country's armband. Is no bigger honor than that.
Convincing players, not necessarily the professional players, but the players that are playing in Bermuda, convincing them that they can actually match some of the countries in which they watch at the national level all the time. How difficult, or how difficult is it to convince them that they can match these players, although they emulate them and idolize them week in and week out when they're playing in the English Premier League?
Mm. I think, especially now that we've played at the level we've played at, that's there's no need for that now. But again, for sure, you especially even going to the Gold Cup, you're playing Costa Rica. These guys playing in the Premier League all over Europe, making lots of money doing so. Um, it is that factor of am I good enough? But for us, I've always saying this in this group that we have now, we just have belief that we can beat anyone. We don't believe that any man is better than us, and on that day we can match him. And I feel that we've reached that you know understanding amongst ourselves that as a unit we can beat anyone on the day and match anyone on the day, which is important, especially going forward with the level of teams we'll be playing.
You hear that CONCACAF have come up with a plan to restart national team football, which will probably be October, November. How excited are you to hear that news? Also, what's in the back of your mind with this pandemic still going on?
Yeah, in the group chat we just posted all the stuff as soon as they announced it. So we're all excited to get going again. Linking up with each other, being lifelong friends is the best feeling, especially playing for your country. So we see that we have games October and November for the World Cup qualifier. So we've been looking forward to that. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's the logistics that have to come with that. Where it's going to be. It's going to be home and away. You have people all over the world who may have to quarantine, this, that, and the other. But right now, we're focused on football. Training's already commenced for the local team. We have training tonight. So we're just going to get that feeling back, playing together, linking up, reuniting. And obviously, with the local guys, some are out of season, some in season. So, they'll be doing what they need to do. When called upon, we don't have long. So, we will be ready for that first game.
Once you guys qualified for the Gold Cup a few years ago now, and that excitement in Panama, I believe it was, then the realization that we're actually going to be playing in the Gold Cup. For you, how did you? Because you were still, I believe, at that time with Sligo Rovers.
Yeah.
When you get back there, you've got to now refocus back to league football, but still got this high energy that hey, we're going to be playing in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I mean, but that's football too. When you do play international and club, you have that excitement. It was the best feeling ever. I say that every time. I can't explain it. But day after I'm back on the plane to Ireland, and we got a league game like a couple days later. So again, that's part of football. You have to be able to refocus and be professional. But again, that feeling stayed with me. I was in the gym hard, working hard, doing my extras, knowing that in June, I have the biggest tournament in Bermuda's history to play in. So,
yeah. You look at how you play the game. Everybody tries to emulate a player and a player style, although you try to do it your own way. Who do you think you kind of mirror in your position when it comes to playing center half?
it's funny. Like people ask me who my favorite player is, and because I'm a defender, they think I'm gonna say a defender. So I'm gonna say my favorite player ever was Thierry Henry. However, for me, I think of like a Rio Ferdinand or a mixture of Rio Ferdinand and Vidic. A little Mon Keane in there as well. That hard man. So, but I even now during that time when I did switch over to playing defender, I watched a lot of defender videos, Polo Maldini, um, Pascal Segan, Arsenal guys, Monkean, Tony Adams, just the old school defender, because I believe that that's the type of player that I was. But in that new age, Rio Ferdinand, and then you have the likes of Van Dijk now, who's just a complete centre back. Any centre back wants to be just like him because he has it all.
Yeah. You throw your body around to defend your country's girl as well. When you get that sense of, or people remind you, you were the first Bermudian to score in the Girl Cup, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, again, it's a privilege that I did it in front of my family. It was a great feeling, but for me, again, it's on and on. I can look back at it and say, I'm proud to be in the history books for that. But it still hurts that, you know, me being the player I am, I want to win. Especially playing in my country shirt. That 2-1 loss, I felt we could have, avoided that. But we've learned from it as well. So I could take pride in that. We've grown a lot as a group over that past 18 months, 2 years. So, we're only getting better. We have young players coming through now, hungry young players. So that's encouraging as well.
Looking at the leadership of the Bermuda National Program right now, and I'm talking about from the TD down to the youth coaches, how much of them sharing information, throughout the program, do you see it has helped the growth of the national teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I mean I've worked with each of them. Mauricio, Mark, they were my coaches as well. So and there were a lot of other players' coaches. So we all had that understanding. But I remember, uh, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, I was in a I had a meeting with Maurice. It was actually in his van, his work van, and he showed me a PowerPoint of, Vision 2026, 22 to get to the World Cup, um, and the Gold Cup was a great achievement, but that wasn't our end goal. We had a whole plan to, once that 48 teams goes for the World Cup, we want to try and make that. So that Gold Cup is a stepping stone for that. So they've always had that plan of, yes, we're small, but we're mighty. So I think we're starting to show that, and we honestly believe, belief is everything in this sport. I feel if you have the skill and you have that belief, you can achieve anything. So I think it's important with the knowledge and the understanding of, Bermudians. We're not like other countries. We don't have players that have grandparents and then play for the country. We're all homegrown. So I think that works for our advantage as well. We're all friends and we consider ourselves family now.
When you mentioned about young, hungry players, what advice do you have for them when getting into the national program? Because we have some players who have been off the island from a young age that have been in a professional setup, but obviously when they come back, they want to shine right away and get into the team. So what advice and what messages do you have for those players who are knocking on that door?
Simple, put in that work. And when you come to training, we respect you and you show that, you're at that level that it takes. We have standards now. We don't allow certain things to happen. No, we're very professional. We hold each and every player accountable. We hold the coaches accountable. So we're at that level of professionalism. But again, I see a lot of young players over in England, in America playing, and in school playing at good universities. So it's encouraging to see that the young players are pushing in their football education. And I'm 28. Nicky Wells is 30. Reggie Lamb's is 29. They've been in the national team program the longest. So it's time for the young guys to stake their claim. You have the young guys. You have so many under 20s now that are regulars. Sergeant Bascom. Likes of Dale Eve, who's been there for a while. Now he's back establishing himself, which I'm very happy with. So we have a lot of good young players coming through, but it won't be easy. You have players, local guys that are still in that middle age that are hungry to keep their spots, and we know that nothing's guaranteed.
Which club do you think had the most effect on your career?
I mean, Danny Town for sure. Danny Town opened my eyes. We used to tour every summer. going to America and playing against good level teams, traveling the world. It opens your eyes when you see different people playing football as well, not just in Bermuda locally, where you may be the best player. When you go somewhere else and overseas, players just as good as you can play just as well as you, just as strong as you. So then you have to up your game. Then you look for the things that can make a difference. But I mean, definitely Danny Ton. I mean, they've produced a lot of professionals, so I think they could take pride in that as well.
Yeah, I know you don't have much time because you have an appointment, but when you look back at what you've been able to accomplish as a player, and you've your journey hasn't been an easy one. You've played in some places where people of color have struggled as citizens. What do you take from your times in Ireland, in Romania, all those places?
I mean, for me, I take everything as an experience, neither positive nor negative. I try to learn from each experience that I encounter. Um, and I look at it like this, my job is to play football. That's a blessing. A lot of people have to work hard, 9 to 5, grind and supporting their families. And I get to wake up, play football, go to the gym, and then do whatever I want. So I take it as a blessing. But I encourage a lot of young Bermudians that to travel around the world. Take that risk because you never know what can happen. I've been lucky enough to play in the Europa League first round. I never would have thought that would have happened. So you never know what can happen if you take that chance. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to chatting with you again sometime soon when you have a little more time. But I do appreciate you and look forward to when you're back on the field, enjoying it in the pink and blue, and leading the country into battle.
Thank
So,
you. Appreciate it.
well, folks, that's it for the BNV Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Do enjoy the rest of your day.